There's a massive typo on the official Zoom YouTube integration. Like nobody
Is it
caught that.
really?
Yeah, like a word
Really?
is missing. Yeah, it says setting up your for YouTube.
Ew.
Wow.
Yikes.
Eek. Okay.
Ooh,
We are
wow.
live.
Hey, everyone.
Sup?
Hi.
Barely, but we are live.
Barely.
Somehow.
I got Patreon. Andy's got the review. Jamie's got the witness protection program.
He does.
I think we're good.
Are we ready?
So
Yeah.
ready.
Let's do it.
Welcome to Alien. I'm kidding. Oh shit! I got to get off of this speaker view. Anyways, I'll start and then I'll do that. Are we ready?
Yep.
Welcome to Perfect Organism, the Alien Saga podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Prater, and I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Patrick Green.
Perry Chicos.
Andy Geek Girl.
Holden Wilhoit.
And Micah Green.
hello, everybody.
Hi.
Yay.
Hey,
Yeah, we're
everyone.
here. What up?
For those of us on the for those of our friends who are on the live stream right now, we just want you to know Jamie is not actually in a witness protection program. He's just backlit because he's not at home right
Jamie,
now.
who are you talking about? Jamie.
This is a safe space.
I love how for the next hour, everybody who joins this stream will be like, "What happened to
What
Jamie?
is happening?
Why is he cloaked in a dark shadow?"
Oh gosh, that's
I
funny.
guess I could turn the overhead light on, but I
No,
hate overhead lights.
I think you should just embrace it. You know,
You
Just
should
be
just
comfortable.
own
we're
it.
the Alien podcast. We're not the Goldilocks podcast.
We are not that.
No, we're definitely not that.
Yeah.
Should we start with our patrons?
Yeah, let's do it.
Heck yeah.
Let's do it. We got a new producer, everybody.
Woo! Yay!
Yes, Allie, Kara of Alley Cat Cosplay, whom you should follow. I believe it's ALLI Cat
Yes.
Cosplay, all one word. Joined. Allie did an amazing Ripley cosplay that like blew up our subreddit as
It
well
was
as the internet
awesome.
in general.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah.
it's rare that we all like send cosplays to each other, but we do a couple times a year, and this was one of them. And the fact that she then subsequently joined as a patron, let alone a producer,
Yeah.
it's just
Right.
amazing. So we're so happy to have her, and we're so happy to have everybody else, including Travis, who just joined. I'm gonna go back. I'll do the last couple months here. We got Sky Aaron, Jordan, Christian Sadler, Darren, and Travis, and Allie. And if you would like to join them, go to perfectorganism.com/support, or just go ahead and search for us on Patreon. You can also join via the Apple in-app subscription, which I always forget about until I look at our producers and I notice that like half of them are coming from Apple. So if you have Apple Podcasts, which you probably do if you have an iPhone, you can go ahead and just subscribe, directly in there to our Patreon. And if you have issues with that, reach out and we'll help you. We got lots of cool stuff coming out.
For sure.
But tonight we are here for the Aliens 40 Years of Bad Road series kickoff, celebrating 40 years of Aliens, which essentially starts in July. And we're really excited about it. This was Andy's idea to have a new series. And I was like, oh, is there any actual more stuff to talk about? And of course there is. It's Aliens.
Always.
There's always stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead, Perry.
I was just gonna say I do enjoy and have enjoyed even before I met you guys listening to the podcast, and you'd have these series on the films, and you'd have like part one, part two, or you'd spread them out over the course of a few months or what have you, right? And it was just really cool because you got to return back, and it was almost like this to be continued story arc of what just talking about how, which was back then primarily Patrick and Jamie, uh just your love for this and that, whether it was Covenant or you'd pick a different film. And that's how I started listening to you guys, actually, was because of the whole Alien 3 series that you guys did, and which was just so great.
That
So
was a
I
fun series.
Yes, and so I love that we're getting back to that stylistically a little bit, at least for Aliens, because obviously it deserves it. It's a huge just anniversary for the movie itself, and it just is, yeah, just it's great. It's one of the greatest sequels of all time, so why not?
I want to do a quick shout out. Somebody in the chat, Christian Perez, our friend, just also reminded me, not to derail us already, but the reveal
Derail
of Aliens Fireteam Elite 2 is tomorrow,
Oh
which was a wonderful
Yeah.
surprise that's like already here. So a little bit of news update before we kind of keep going off what Perry was saying.
That
Very
is
exciting.
actually really exciting, though. I
Yeah.
mean, like, it's awesome that we're getting Isolation 2 at some point, and it's
Ugh.
just great that now there's oh my God,
Fireteam Elite.
Team Elite.
Fire
You're
Team
okay.
Elite.
You got
Yeah,
this.
I thought I was saying it weird. Anyway, forgive me. But yeah, it's a great time, I guess, for like gaming in that way, right? And it's
Yeah.
just it finally we've all been wanting that piece of it a little bit. And like Rogue Incursion obviously looked great, and when you guys were playing it, but it seemed like a very fast, how should I say, like a one and done. Like really, you played it, you were like, oh, that was great, and then. But I feel like there's these games out there that can go on and provide a lot of entertainment for a while. I mean, Holden, I know you've been playing with some of the producers, uh, the original Fireteam Elite. So I'm excited to see what they add to it and if we get any new creatures or, just like crazy story arc. I feel like that's the type of game where you can just like go off the rails, give us some fun shit to do. Let's shoot some shit. Let me customize my Marine and add little logos to the eyebrows of my guy and then fucking go into the hive and shoot a bunch of shit, you know?
Yeah.
Jamie left because we're talking about a fire team too much. He's just gone.
Oh.
For it. Oh, there he is.
There he is. I want to say kind of uniting these points together is everybody who saw the Isolation sequel trailer on Alien Day, no doubt noticed that there was definitely a Hadley's Hopian aspect to what we saw when the
Yes.
doors open.
That's
I
a
don't
great
think it
word.
actually
Sure.
is. I don't think it actually is Hadley's
Hadley
Hope.
Hopian.
Hadley's Hopian.
It's Hopian.
But it definitely, it very clearly is trying to, give those vibes because Aliens, to this day is probably even just as iconic, if not more iconic than the original film. Aliens has become so ingrained in our culture. And it's cool that the world of Isolation seems to be paying homage to it as well,
Yeah.
Patrick, you don't think Isolation 2 is Hadley's Hope?
No, Christian and I have been talking about it. Not Christian
I
Perez,
don't think
although
it
I
is
love to talk
either.
to Christian Perez, Christian Matska and I. It looks like it might not be. If you freeze frame it and upscale it, it looks like more urban almost.
I wanna
Like,
see
it looks
that.
more like a kind of yeah. I'll show you. But that being said, it's so hard to pick out details, which I love. I mean, this is what we've been asking for. This is what Blade Runner needs right now for 2099. Just like something that is like tantalizing, that gets us all
Anything
talking. Like,
at
what are we
all.
seeing? What is this?
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
I hope when Isolation's sequel comes out, we know barely anything more than we know right now. Like we just know
Yes.
that like something's
Agreed.
different.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
I think we're meant to think it's Hadley's Hope, and then
Yeah.
it's just going to turn on its head when we get to play it, which is what I actually really hope, because that would be
Hadley's Nope.
amazing. Hadley's
Hadley's a
Nope.
nope.
Hashtag Hadley's Nope.
Listen, as like the non-gamer, I'm actually really excited that gaming is having its moment because I think we're just gonna get a whole new crop of young fans into the world of Alien, which I think we need. So
You're a
I'm
gamer, Andy.
I'm kind of
Way
not
more than
really.
me.
I still haven't been
You are.
Andy
You're the
Game
gamer.
Girl.
Andy
Girl.
Game Girl.
Still walking into walls. Still haven't quite mastered, but
I do the same. It's fine.
yeah.
It is
But
what it
no,
is.
I've definitely improved. But I think it's really cool that I think this is how we get more people into the franchise.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think it's having its moment. I really like that. It's like Christmas for gaming.
I hope it's Hadley's Hope. I hope it's Hadley's Hope.
I was really hoping it was
Hadley's
Jackson
Hope.
Star. That would be dope. Maybe like a sample gets down to the planet or something like that. Something survives the crash
Romulus
of
disaster.
Renaissance Station, and we
Yeah.
kind of see the aftermath of that. I would love that.
That'd
It'd
be
also
sick.
be really good to tie in the games with another movie a little bit more.
Yeah.
I
And
think
there's
they
plenty
will.
of room for Hadley's Hope to work. I think that there's a lot of other stories of people that aren't just like Newt and the Jordan family, right? Like
Yeah.
there's lots of real estate you could use there, but part of what was cool about Isolation was it felt so much like Alien, but it really was a little separated from it. Like there was a pretty big firewall around Alien during it, you know? And I think part of me feels like that's kind of what, they're going for again here is something that feels very like it really conjures the atmosphere, for example, of Aliens, but it has some sort of a firewall. Like it's another terraforming colony somewhere, where something
Or
else happened.
maybe we're getting another derelict sequence. Like maybe it's completely like we have no idea what Isolation 2 is going to be about, but there is a very small part of it where maybe there's like somebody from Hadley's Hope that shows up and wherever Amanda Ripley is, and then you get to go back and like play that memory or something.
Do we know that it's going to
Something
be Amanda?
wild like that.
We don't.
We don't. Yeah, sorry.
We don't know
That's
anything.
that's a Perry theory.
I wanted
That's
to be
why-
Amanda really bad, but
That's why I think they're not dumb, the people who are making Isolation 2, and they released an image knowing what people were going to think when they saw it,
Mhm.
knowing that
Yeah.
people were going to identify that as Hadley's Hope. They're not
Yep.
doing it for no reason. I don't think it's just it's just bait and switch. I think it's Hadley's Hope. It's probably it probably looked very different, 10 years before Ripley got there,
yeah.
That's true. Although, I mean, the first footage that we saw of Isolation, everybody thought that was the Nostromo until
Yeah.
Really?
until we actually like read more about it. We're like, oh, that's not. So, it could be.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
it could not be. But I love
Or-
this feeling of not knowing.
Yeah, I know. This is the best part of it.
This is so
Like,
fun.
I know.
oh.
I think didn't Ross say something like maybe the DLC will be Hadley's Hope, similar to how the DLC of Isolation 1 was the Nostromo. That
I
would
like
I could see that being executed very well.
Mm.
hmm
I would love that. Like, even if it's just like the Jordan family coming back, from the site, like
Ugh.
something like that, like a one-off kind of like
Right.
race.
Or you
Oof.
maybe if you're whoever the protagonist character is, if it's one or whatever, you're on your mission, and there are moments where you see Newt darting from, and
Yeah.
she's not a part of it, but she is. So that
Yeah.
story is happening. Parts of that story, not the end part, of course, that we see in Aliens, but that'd be interesting if we saw that. Speaking
Similar to
of
Silent Hill, too.
Aliens, James Cameron is talking about turning Aliens into converting it into 3D, which I think is interesting.
It's interesting.
Interesting is a
I
good
mean,
word
I'm
for
gonna
it.
go see it.
I'm gonna go.
Oh,
Me too.
yeah.
I've
And
never
take
seen it
my
in
money,
theater.
obviously.
But was he talking? I haven't really seen this yet. He's talking about a theatrical print in 3D, or
I
is
would
this just like a
imagine.
I mean,
really?
I don't think
I
there's a
didn't-
lot of people with home 3D capability.
There was in 2010. I'll tell you that there was like a 2-year period where everybody got 3D televisions,
And Hollywood was
nobody ever
pushing
used
That's
this
them.
shit.
true. That's true.
And then
Do you
they
remember that?
disbanded.
What was
Yeah.
up with that?
It
It
was
was,
dumb.
it was further than 2010. I feel like it was more like 2016 through 2018. There was a real
I think it
push
was
for
earlier
3D.
than that.
I
Was
think
it
it was
earlier?
too. Because
Yeah.
wasn't that when like the curved
Maybe that's when it
TVs were a
started.
thing too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we still have. That
We
works.
still have we like the curved TV.
Is your TV curved? Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, you remember that TV, Perry?
You remember the
Yeah, oh,
TV?
yeah.
You
Remember
watched
that
the
TV?
game.
You could see
Watching
it
the
through your
game
blanket
on there.
layers.
Movie
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
It was like, give me more
Oh, boy.
blankets. We are so off class.
That freezing house.
Let's get back. Shut up.
Focus.
Let's get back to Aliens for a second. Now,
It's
Yeah.
62. What's wrong?
gas is expensive, especially now. Oh my god, I filled.
Oh my God. I
quarter of our
spent
tank up, and it was
$65
like-
to put 10
Please.
gallons in my tank, in my
Oh
gas.
my
10
God.
gallons.
Yeah,
I paid
It's very
$6.39 a
upsetting.
gallon.
our
I hate
patrons
that
are
so
like,
much.
what are
Anyways.
we talking about right now?
Patrons like
But
we came
you-
here
they
and
understand.
now we're leaving.
Yeah.
Sorry,
But
guys.
so aliens.
Sorry.
We're
Aliens.
here to celebrate aliens.
Yeah.
All right. Good night.
Yeah, that was your
Great
speech.
movie.
That was your segue.
It was so good.
We are here to celebrate aliens. So let's talk about it a little bit. We just did our Hicks episode, of course, which was a really wonderful way to kind of celebrate Alien Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the feedback on that has been amazing. Of course, Andy was just hanging out with everybody again. All the Colonial Marines,
Her
they've
best
been doing.
friends, really. Let's
Who
be
won't
real.
come on our show?
They have to.
They won't.
Actually,
But,
a couple
um,
of them have been on our show already. So
That's true. That's true.
But they're all doing the convention circuits. They're really, really active. They always have lines at the tables and stuff. And it's I feel like Aliens is one of those films that like just never it's just never old fashioned. It's like always the one that by default you want to just throw on. If you
Yeah.
have a couple hours and you want to watch a movie, like throw Aliens on.
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in that realm too, it's just always so relevant in that way. Or I guess just to say it differently, it's like they're always at the Comic Cons. That's that movie is always somewhere in the limelight. I feel like everybody knows Aliens. They you know like Bill Paxton or obviously Sigourney Weaver, Michael Biehn, like Rico Ross, all those guys, and it's just there's like this longevity to that legacy of that film, which carries it so well that it just is it's I don't know. It just has this special sparkle. It's like the cheesiest way to say it, but like I love that about it so much that it sticks to everything about it. You buy a freaking t-shirt that's it's something aliens like that's always fun to wear. I mean obviously for us, but like it's something you notice. The movie you can put on all the time, the one-liners you can say all the time that I would say most people at least know, obviously like Game Over Man.
Mhm.
Like I see local tattoo shops here that do like random flash sometimes, or like random businesses here in Minneapolis were like doing random little really small things for like Alien Day, or just the fact that they knew about it and it was relevant. But the one film that they were like touching on was aliens, usually from what I saw here locally. And so like that's just so cool, you know? It's so cool that it stuck with our culture in that way throughout generations, all these, decades later.
Yeah, I
To
mean,
the Oh, go ahead.
well, like Alien is, obviously we all adore Alien. It's my favorite of the franchise. But Alien like has a lot of things that don't necessarily appeal to everybody. I think if aliens didn't exist, Alien would be a much more like cult following thing, kind of like The Thing, where it's not as pushed in the pop culture zeitgeist. But Aliens gave us a little bit of something for everybody, I think. You got people who love the military stuff, people who love guns, people who love humor. There's a lot of great jokes and a lot of great laughs in the movie. There's a lot of good scares. It really gave, like you were saying, Perry, it gave the franchise that longevity and that reach. There's always new people coming into this fandom and this franchise. Like, because of, I mean, we're eating really good right now. We got a lot of new stuff coming out, like we've been talking about, Fireteam Elite. Fireteam Elite wouldn't be here without aliens,
Yeah.
Isolation probably wouldn't either, even though it's more based on the vibe of Alien. I think that the work that Cameron and the team did to sort of expand like the way the universe looks and everything, especially in Isolation 2, it looks like it's going to veer more towards that aliens aesthetic. So it's given the franchise a lot of reach and a lot of longevity, and I think it's really special because of that. Cameron people say lightning in a bottle talking about this movie all the fucking time, and it's hard to avoid that analogy because it's just true.
It is true. And I think what's interesting is it's, I think, I don't know who agree or doesn't agree, but I feel like Aliens is the best thing that happened to the series and the worst because nothing has lived up to it. Nothing. And it's really, really interesting as time marches on and we see new things, and everything's always, well, it's not aliens. It's not Alien. It's not Alien 3. And it's what I love about this series that we're going to be approaching is that it's kind of like going home, certainly specifically with Aliens. Of course, as you all know, Alien 3 is my favorite, but I think the best film for me of the series is Alien, but Aliens is like coming home. And it's, you can find new things all the time. Um, but you can also just sit in your chair and just be that 10-year-old kid again who saw aliens for the first time, or talk to like it's the thing that brings people together, which is what I love about it. But I'm also continually fascinated that the very smart people in charge still have not understood what made that film work in a way to recreate something else. So that's going to be interesting to talk about as well as we explore this movie again.
It's like comfort food, like it's all
Yeah.
Alien is my favorite, But I will never say no to watching Aliens ever because it just feels exactly like you said, Jamie. It feels like coming home. It feels like I get to watch this movie that will make me happy and even make me cry at some points and make me just like want to think about the creatures and how they are made and how they move and then think about the music itself and just every bit of the plot is fabulous and engrossing and it's one of those movies where you're like, oh, thank God we have these, like these movies that just ground you, they make you happy, they give you that dopamine, and then they don't ask anything from you either. Like you don't have to like try to figure everything out or put too much mental effort into it. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's just so nice to have a film like that that can be revered across decades. And I mean, even before I had ever seen it, I know that quote, "Game over, man." I know "Get away from her, you bitch." Even before I ever saw those movies, it's so iconic. It just lives in the minds of any person who has ever watched any film. And you can tell because there's so many references in everything from like Toy Story to other like there I can't even think of anything right now, but there's just like people reference that movie within movies all the time because of how solid it is. And these characters have affected us so much that we've done countless episodes on this. And obviously we're not the only alien podcast, but like everyone can talk about aliens, even if you're not a huge fan. And I think we're just so lucky to have that as a film in this franchise.
Yeah, to absolutely no one's surprise, it is my favorite. It will always be my favorite. And the thing for me that I love about it, other than taking me back to when I was 10 and 12, is seeing the utter joy and sharing it with the young people in my life. So before I even had children, I probably would get in trouble for this now, but when I first started teaching and it was like the tests were over and there was like a week left of school, I showed Aliens. I didn't ask permission. It was rated R, but I did it anyway to a class that I knew wanted to watch it because I kept talking about it. And it was mostly girls. I want to say it was like 8 girls and 2 boys or something in this class. And every single one of them were utterly riveted. I had to watch it over the course of 2 days, and they were pissed that the bell rang and they didn't get to finish it. And that will always stay with me. But then having my own children and my nephews, seeing the joy, it's my daughter's favorite film. Um, it's our comfort. There are days when she has a bad day at school and she's like, "Mommy, can we just watch Aliens?" And I just I will never not do that. And then when I was showing my nephew, he specifically waited for me to see it. They live in another state, and this kid was standing behind the couch during the whole sequence when she goes to get Newt from to the end, gripping the couch from behind and like shaking. He was so excited. And to me, that's what cinema is. That's like they don't all have to be action packed, but it moves you. It excites you. It transports you into that world. And Aliens is one of the best examples of a film that does that, where you are utterly transported every time. I'm always in that world when it's on. I'm like the world's beyond whatever's going on. I can just lose myself in Aliens. And that's why, like the lightning in the bottle, it, that's what it is for me.
I think that's part of why it's so compulsively rewatchable because it just pulls that magic trick off every single time. It's worth noting, like I know people who listen to this podcast who watch Aliens every day of their lives. Literally, like I have artist friends who like they sit down in the morning and Aliens just goes on, and then they just do their art, and then they like it gets to the end and they just like play it again. It's like a constant presence for them. And I think for most of us, and I am very much including myself in that, my childhood had like a pretty big phase where that was kind of what was going on in my childhood too. Like I would always watch Aliens, like, and it was with movie nights with friends. It was when I got home from school and pretended to do homework, but was actually just watching Aliens in my room. Sorry, mom. It was just always on. It's interesting because that it's tough because I know we always talk about like how much we want aliens to happen again. I mean, Jamie is 100,000% right. Nothing has been as successful as aliens, and that is across basically any vector you can think of. Obviously, financially, aliens was tremendously successful. Aliens also expanded the lore and the mythology so much. Aliens gave us like these incredible iconic characters. Aliens blew open the template of what Alien could be. And this is something that we've talked about quite a bit that I get a lot of shit for because although I love Aliens, I sometimes think maybe it kind of demystified the creature a little too much and kind of made things make a little too much kind of point A to point B sense. And in so doing, it kind of shifted Alien somewhat from this kind of cosmic, Lovecraftian nihilist kind of space horror thing to something that is a little bit more like, you know, fun, which, I'm not saying fun in a derogatory sense whatsoever, because again, I think that that's an important thing to have in the world. And I think obviously Aliens is a lot more than quote unquote just a fun movie. Like I'm not reducing it to that. But all that being said, without Aliens, we wouldn't have things like obviously AVP, but we also wouldn't have things like, to Perry's point, Fireteam Elite. The Colonial Marines wouldn't exist. Weyland-Yutani as a corporation, at the way that we know it, wouldn't exist. Aliens gave us just this incredible world, and in doing that, they essentially birthed like everything that's come since, because now everything plays in the sandbox that Aliens created. And I think part of why this saga has become kind of derivative is partly because of that, because everybody wants to recreate what Aliens did. And why would you not? I mean, Aliens was a serialized sequel to a film that made an insane amount of money, became iconic in popular culture, and to this day is like one of the most quoted films to be released in the 20th century, and is literally always included in lists of the best sequels of all time. It's often at the top of those lists, along with things like Godfather 2. That is fucking crazy. And Cameron also, of course, Terminator 2 is always in that conversation, even though people on this call don't think it's as good as the first one. Terminator 2 is always brought up as being just as good a film.
Who doesn't?
Jamie and Andy both don't like it as much.
Jamie and Andy.
No, I think it's
love
amazing.
it.
I love it too.
Yeah.
The first one's a better film. The first one's a better
I
film.
totally agree.
I thought I knew you
Cameron
guys.
does something amazing, and he can take something and completely repackage it and resell it. That's what he did with Aliens in some ways. He did that with Terminator 2. Fantastic film, but it's a repackaging almost from beginning to end of the first Terminator.
This is a different topic for a
That's
different
a
night, 'cause
different-
that's
yeah.
going to
We
open
should
such a
not
bag
go
of
down
worms.
Oh no, it isn't. I'm kidding.
I don't
But-
agree with that, but
Just stay on this bad road,
Yes.
guys.
I think
not
they're pretty
that
different.
bad road.
But that being said,
Yeah.
I think Cameron is a master of the sequel.
he's obviously a
was,
master of the
yes.
sequel. And
Yes.
then we
Yes.
get Avatar, which is to me the antithesis of that. And this is part of what's so frustrating to me, is that,
Yeah.
then we get the endless Cameron sequels, right? We're stuck in this bizarro universe now where all we get are sequels from James Cameron of his own material, and they're getting worse as they go, and they weren't very good to start with. And now
they're
we're kind
also
of trapped.
rehashes.
And they're
Yeah.
but I mean, I don't think it's even a rehash. I think it's just essentially just plagiarizing his
You haven't even seen them.
everything.
They're a rehash.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they're a carbon copy. I'm saying, like, I think that it's just
Yeah.
like the same movie over and over again with the same structure,
Yep.
etc. And it sucks because like we're seeing something that we talk about with Ridley, something we talk about with a lot of creative people, where you get like an insane amount of success, and then Jamie loves to bring this up. People stop saying no to you, and people stop telling you something's a bad idea. And Aliens came from an era where that had not happened to Cameron. He was 32 years old. He had so much to prove. He had just sold the script for Terminator. He was like on top of the world. And we have this like beautiful, or he got the job on the basis of the script for Terminator. So it's cool that we get to see him like at the height of his powers. Like we see all of this like raw creative energy, but it had not been kind of kind of depurified and diluted. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And going back to what I was saying before, just quickly about how everybody's trying to recapture it, like everybody wants to have a zeitgeist moment with Alien again. I think Romulus in some ways had elements of that. Romulus, as successful as it was absolutely nothing compared to the success that Aliens was, obviously. But I think it's tough. When Beethoven was composing for the next like 150 years, every single piece of music was compared to Beethoven. To the point where there's like a whole like epoch in classical music called like the shadow of Beethoven. It was just constant, and everything that came out was compared. And people started like hating Beethoven because it's like, why does everything have to be like that? I think with Aliens, there's an element of that. Like when something comes out, we're like, how does it measure up to the first two movies, right? And that is, I think, the challenge that's in front of filmmakers, and I think it's a challenge that like nobody is doing yet. And I'll close out by saying that Cameron would not make that movie today. That's the thing, you know? The Cameron
I
of
agree.
today would not make Aliens the way that he did.
But I don't think anyone makes that movie today.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
That's
know?
true. That's a good
Yeah.
statement.
I
Yeah.
would want to know who could make that movie today. Like,
I don't think the studios would let you make that movie today.
ugh.
What do you what I think they
Like
would.
practically. I don't know. I just
Well, you
think,
know,
of course, with
the gamble. I think it's
With
the
what's her name, that
gamble
would
and the yeah.
we get so few of those golden nuggets of movies like Aliens. Like the only one that I can think of in more recent years is Project Hail Mary. That is the only, and it's like from a book, so it's like clearly the story had already been created, but we just like crave these movies because they are so magical, you know? And Project Hail Mary was like one thing that comes to mind that's like it's like that for me at least. It's like I'm watching this movie that just affects me emotionally in a profound way, and it just makes me happy, and it's just so interesting that it's just special, and there's no other way to put it. I feel stupid because I can't even think of a better way to articulate how you feel about it, you know? And I think a lot of people who can articulate things better than me could, but at the same time it just is what it is. It just is magic. It just is lightning in a bottle. And I just don't see us ever getting anything like that with the franchise because of the way people try to like mirror it or recreate it or try to get there.
100%. And that's the problem. They're trying to mirror
Yeah.
it as opposed to seeing actually what Cameron did. And I'm not talking about, oh, he took this element and that element and did this. I don't mean that. Like Andy and I have had this discussion, or all of us probably, like the character arcs of each of the characters in Aliens, how profound that was, how Cameron dialed everything in so perfectly. That's the kind of thing that we could see again, where you have things dialed in. And I think what works so beautifully about Aliens is everything is dialed in. And that's what you do in the next film or whatever, is you dial everything in, and that takes time. And we're not, certainly the Hollywood system isn't a system on time anymore. They want a release window. They're going to give you a year and a half to do it, and that's not long enough time to make a movie like Aliens. So maybe the delay with Romulus 2 will open that door. But I think with Aliens, the great thing about Aliens is that there are other sequels. Like for instance, I would name Blade Runner 2049 as a lightning in the bottle sequel. Something very rare, as magical, if not more so, in some circles than
That
the
was the
original
other
film.
one that it
Yeah.
comes to mind for me too.
I would say Doctor Sleep would be similar, as
Ah.
essentially a sequel to The
Yeah.
Shining that
Mhm.
probably, at least for me, it edges The Shining up, and it's
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Dr. Sleep is really
But-
good.
Doctor
Yeah,
Sleep's a
but-
great movie, but it's like,
Doctor
compared to
S-
The Shining.
yeah. I've
Yeah,
never
Shining-
been a
yeah.
huge fan of The Shining. I think it's a really great film, but I left the film thinking, well, what was that about even? What was happening in
The
this
book's
hotel?
better.
I never knew what was happening in that hotel until Doctor Sleep.
I'm just
Anyways.
thinking of exploding Prosecco bottles
Oh,
right now.
have you read the book, Jamie? Jamie, you got to read the book.
The throwback.
That's
book is
interesting. Yes, for
crazy.
sure, the book, but as a cinephile,
I think the film
you
is
sh-
incredible.
You shouldn't.
Yeah,
The
I
Shining
would-
is Stanley Kubrick. What are you talking about?
No, I would agree. I'd agree. It's an incredible film.
Too
But
scary.
I'm not the only person that didn't know anything that was happening in that movie when it was happening. Like what was going on with this kid? What was happening? You didn't know, and I only found out when I watched Doctor Sleep. You shouldn't have to read
But
the book.
isn't it kind of nice not to know? I think that's the whole point. The
No,
point is
well,
to
no,
have mystery,
I hear you.
right?
I love ambiguity. I don't like
Yeah,
being
it sounds
spoon-fed,
like you
but
don't
I
have
have
ambiguity. Mm,
Fucking
But I
hate
did not
ambiguity.
know what the story was. Like, what's that movie? Nope. I fucking hated that movie. Not because it was a
Nope.
bad film. It's not a bad film at
Unbelievable.
all. It's an amazing film. I just don't know what it's about.
I fucking love Nope. I think it's a
Nope
great
is
movie.
I enjoyed
Terrifying.
Nope.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
That's great. I just don't.
yeah,
I
know
wrote
what
good
you.
it's
for
I wrote you
you.
an essay on what it was about. You don't
Good for
remember
you.
this?
Well, that's what it's about to
It's about
you.
spectacle. The whole point of Nope is about spectacle. How we spectacleize things, whether it's other
Yeah.
races, whether it's other species, whether it's trying to
Murder.
subjugate animals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Death.
like it's humans inexorably try to create spectacle because we're drawn to it, and
Sure.
there's repercussions for
I
that.
believe you. I believe you.
Right.
That's what
And
it's literally
Elgin's
about,
in it
though.
from
I
Alien
believe you.
Resurrection. Come on.
Yeah,
What? What'd you say?
Elgin.
We're
What
also forgetting
Oh,
From Alien Resurrection.
Empire.
you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
All right, we're so
Oh.
off task.
No, can I
Louder,
can
say it
I
louder.
can I go back to a sequel? We didn't talk about Empire Strikes
Christy.
Back, but that's
ESB.
Oh,
Also-
Empire. Yeah.
Here we go.
eh,
Here we go.
Leia.
Empire. But let me
Best
so
appearance.
I want
Shut
to
up.
no, I'm not going to get into the Leia discussion.
We have so many
But
arguments.
we had-
tonight.
Yes.
We had arguments.
We had
I love
words.
Empire. Empire is the best. But
Yeah. Empire's amazing.
Empire to me is very much like Aliens, except in reverse. Let me explain. So, Empire stands out, I think, amongst Star Wars fandom for being the darkest one, right? In a world that Lucas created, where it was like this amazing sci-fi universe of, kind of like cheesy characters looking back, but like as a kid, you are just utterly full of hope and loving this world. And Alien to me is the reverse, right? Alien is darkness and nihilism and everything that like takes hope away from you. And Aliens is the hopeful movie, blanketed or sandwiched between these two very dark nihilistic movies. Now, there's darkness in Aliens for sure. Bad things happen, but you watch it with a sense of hope, which is why I think as kids we clung on to that one, which is what makes Empire so great amongst the Star Wars realm. It's like the standout because of that feeling you get, and you need hope in some aspect. We love Star Wars because we've got hopeful movies. I think we needed Aliens to give us a little bit of hope. I think if all three films had been as dark as 1 and 3, it would be too much. And I think this one just gives us just enough horror, right? But action and humor into it that it makes the other two shine even greater in their darkness. So to me, it's the Empire in reverse. Both of them are my favorite of the series for that reason, because they're the ones that stand out. They're giving us something we need in that moment to kind of bring us back down to either the hope or the darkness.
Well, I think going off of what you're saying, Andy, and I know that we've talked about this before, in some aspect. I can't remember which episode, but without Aliens, I would argue that Ripley is not a hero. She becomes a hero in Aliens. She becomes a hero when she chooses to go back and to face this terrifying monster that she almost died from, and then to continue to fight for their survival, knowing that not only is there not just one alien, there are many aliens, and then to go back and get Newt after all of that, and there's a fucking queen. So like that is when Ripley becomes a hero for me, and I know that we've talked about this before. So that is part, I think, of the magic of Aliens and that hopefulness that you're talking about. I think because Empire is my favorite one, and I'm not going to talk about Star Wars very much, but I feel like it's hard to compare Aliens and Empire because of exactly what you said, which is that Empire was brave in that it kind of took away the hope and made it like, wow, what are they going to do? They made it real. They made this like sci-fi movie kind of real. Not to say that Aliens takes away reality or grounding from the story at all, but it's interesting. They both enhance the movies around them so much, and both in different ways because of gravitas that they can bring. One is a little bit more obvious than the other, but the charm of Aliens is not just that we see Ripley fully come into her own as a hero in that movie, as a brave person that I look at and I just want to be that, you know? And our kids look at her and want to be that, and Hicks and everyone in the crew. But in this movie, that's the magic, I think, really, too. Like, it's awe-inspiring to have a story like that where you get all of those things, the humor and the action and the gravitas as well. And I think it's hard to compare that to Empire just because it achieves the same goal in a different way. It challenges Luke in a different way. I don't know. It's so fantastic to think about both of these movies that we get both of these movies in our lives and get to watch them and show our kids them and like talk about them with each other. We're so lucky, you guys. Like these movies are
Yeah.
incredible.
To
Well,
live
I
in a
think
world where Terminator 2 is so much better than the first one.
I do love
Yes.
Terminator 2 better.
I think
Me
Alien
too.
as a franchise, particularly the movies, excel when the director, whoever's in charge of the film, is daring to do something different and not just recreate beats we've seen over and over again. You know, as we saw like with Romulus, that was a lot of the downfalls with Romulus, if not all of them, were the beats that they tried to recreate from Alien or Aliens, you know. Like Aliens is amazing because Cameron took that he took that kind of established world and aesthetic and he just went, okay, I'm gonna do my own thing with this. I'm gonna bring my own ideas into this. He wasn't concerned with, aside from like, you know, Ripley's development, uh, Ripley's character development and who she was established to be in the first movie, but he just took it and ran with it and did a bunch of shit that wasn't even alluded to in the first film. Same with Alien 3. Alien 3 does not, it doesn't pull from Aliens, you know, it doesn't, at least like as far as the plot structuring and everything, like it just dares to be different. And the most controversial choice that was made in Alien 3, killing off Newt and Hicks, I think enhances Aliens, at least in my experience. Like I'm watching Aliens and cherishing that time with these characters so much more because I know that's all the time we're gonna get. You know, it makes those characters in this movie so much more special for me. And I wish people wouldn't go into new Alien projects and sequels and everything with this idea of like we need to recreate the magic of the first movie or the second movie. You know, take what's there and add something to it. You know, don't just repeat the same things over and over again. That's what makes the original trilogy so special is they're all just distinctly different in their vibes and the way the characters are and you know I'm sick of seeing the same shit over and over again.
I really like the way you said that though, Holden. It's like I wanna, I wanna like spend time. It's like Aliens, and Alien 3, any of the films really. It's like they all have their own little like room in your house, right? And you're like, oh,
Hmm.
I really want to spend time in this room. Like I really love it for this reason. I want to relax here on this couch in this nostalgia, in this with this music, with this art, And Aliens has a very special room in my house for that in that way because of what you said. Like I think that's great is like you really want to spend time with these characters because you know that that's all you're really going to get and that's yeah, that's so cool. I feel like that's just like what embodies that's something that James Cameron and all the actors created for that film where I feel like it's the room you want to sit in the most, in a nice, in a fun way.
It's also a room that is so replete with amazing characters, and I think,
Yeah.
I mean, Holden's right that we kind of we can't help but kind of compare things to Alien and Aliens, and sometimes Alien 3, and that like people making films seem to like always be trying to. I mean, they literally in their marketing speak they're always saying some combination of we're taking the best parts of Alien and the best parts of Aliens. It's an alien story with an aliens vibe. It has the scares of Alien and the heart of Aliens. I mean, like literally every video game that comes out says that. Like the Alien RPG probably says that somewhere. I mean, everybody's trying to do that all the time. That I think is a road not worth going down because I think that when you're just trying to recapture like the feeling of something, I think you're never going to get it. But there are certain like actual like objective things that Aliens does well that a lot of things don't do well. Romulus, and again, I think part of why Romulus is coming up a lot is because it was a successful alien movie that did a lot of things really, really well.
Hey, Romulus is great.
Yeah, but the characters are not. The characters are pretty hit and miss, and a lot of the time it's, we've talked about this ad nauseum. It's like hard to tell how people are related to each other and like why and what they're actually trying to do, and some of the characters appear to kind of just not really have agency, and it's just the characters aren't like super consistent. But you go to Aliens and they're literally all consistent. Even people like Rosbowski, these like just tiny characters, you can pause anywhere and you can freeze frame it, and there's which you can in 4K now, and there's just so much just detail and thought, and none of them ever feel like they're untethered from an internal life. And everything since then has moments in it where the characters, even when things are successful, where they do feel kind of like they're not really, like they're kind of acting in an alien movie. Covenant, which is a film that I always go to bat for and I still love, the characters are a mess in Covenant. There's a few great ones. I think no, there's elements of greatness in it. Yeah,
Great is a strong word.
No, I do think. I mean, I think Walter and David are amazing.
Danny
I think
McBride.
there's maybe not Tennessee.
Ferris.
Just kidding.
Yeah, Ferris is great,
Ferris.
and Karen I think does a great
And
job.
James
There's
Franco.
some great. James Franco's barbecue.
Ugh.
There's some
Fire
wonderful
in
characters
this
in it.
movie.
But if you look at like on the whole, I mean, the characters are like 7/8 pretty terrible, and then 1/8 really good. You look at Prometheus.
Let's not even talk about
It's
it.
even more than that, And it's just this is a problem that these things, fall into, and Aliens just doesn't have any moments like that. So anyway, so going back to what I was saying, there are objective standards that I think it's worth holding things to, right? Even if it's not aesthetic ones or vibe ones. One of them is characters. Another one is, get your shot glasses out, verisimilitude.
Oh, there
So-
it is.
Like Aliens, Andy was mentioning this earlier, is so believable. The second you turn it on, you just are instantly transported to that world. Whether you're on the station in the beginning or whether you're like on the colony, you just always feel like it exists somewhere, even though we know exactly where it was filmed, and even though we see props and sets being reused in Batman, we see things that like just show up in other movies, and we're like, oh, that's the staircase they shot the escape in. But it doesn't matter, because when it's in Aliens, it's so fully realized and well thought out and beautifully sound designed and et cetera, and beautifully lit and beautifully shot and beautifully interacted with and tactile, that it just feels completely escapist. It's worth looking back at like the films that influenced Alien, right? Like Forbidden Planet was one of the main influences for it. Forbidden Planet is
2001.
in 2001, but it was especially in the case of Forbidden Planet, like that's ultimately a movie about like exploration. Like that's a movie about like traveling to space. That's a movie that came out well before Alien did, but felt like, to audiences at the time, like it really kind of took them off planet. And that is a major reason people see science fiction, is to have that feeling. That's why something like Foundation works so well, or Andor works so well. It transports you somewhere. And I think that Aliens is like one of the absolute best examples of that I can think of. I mean, I would put it up there with 2001 in terms of production design and attention to detail, 100%. And Alien, that's a third movie that I would put in that bucket. It's such a high standard, but we do deserve to hold things to it. It doesn't mean that if things fail on one or multiple of those that we have to just write the whole thing off, but it does mean that like we're always pining to recapture something. And I think if we start pining to recapture the feeling of something, we're going to be chasing a dragon that's going to, never come home.
Yeah.
Partly because Aliens just came out at a different time. We were in a different place in our lives. It hit us in a very special way, clearly, because here we are doing this. We might not ever get that feeling back, but we can get elements of it back. And I hope for the future of this franchise that they figure that out.
To your point, Patrick, I think it's worth discussing. And again, as we continue on this year with this series, this is essentially this is like a kickoff. It's not even an episode in the series that we're planning. But if you think about what Cameron did back then and the prevalence of sequels, there weren't tons of sequels happening back then. Cameron did something he could do. He took elements of Alien and he repackaged them in a beautiful way that felt new, that didn't feel like a repeat, even though, in 2026 or, years later, we can look at it and go, okay, this might be a little bit derivative and blah, blah, blah. But at that time, no one was doing that. And I think why it was so successful is because no one was doing it. Cameron was smart. He was like, hey, I'm taking what I know worked, what I knew people responded to, and at this point, with audiences, we've seen everything. So you can't do that again. And I think the idea of lightning in a bottle, I think you can capture lightning in a bottle. You can capture what the Alien films did. Um, but it's not, it's going to sound a little bit like doublespeak, but it's not what they did. It's how they did it. It's Cameron writing good characters. It's understanding the dynamics of those characters and how they work together. It's not just, oh, these characters are getting us from point A to point B. Because if you look at like Alien 3, they were like, we're not doing what Aliens did. It was a complete 360 or 180 or whatever from Aliens. It wasn't on a ship. It wasn't, I mean, it was on a planet, but it was very, very different. There was no countdown in the end. But if you count Aliens, there's 5 films in the series with countdowns. And the other ones, except for Aliens, weren't successful. Well, except for Romulus. There was a countdown with Romulus. But how many times are you going to put a countdown in a film? There's a reason why Alien Resurrection flopped. And they went into, they had the army guys there, they had the ship, they had the aliens, and none of it worked. It just didn't work. And in large part, it's because the writing was shit. It was garbage. Um, but I feel like, again, we talked about this, people aren't really listening. They're hearing, oh yeah, we want to make a good film that all the fans respond to. And so what they do is like, oh, let's put this here and let's put these guys here and let's have this countdown here. That's not what made those films good. Those things are not what made Aliens good. It's the characters that surrounded those things that made Aliens and Alien 3 arguably really, really good. And even though Alien 3 wasn't that successful as a film, I love it even more that it continues to live on its own. And kind of taking this full circle, while I love why I love coming back to the original 3 films, but certainly Alien and Aliens, is I can talk about this film and not be like, oh yeah, but this part sucked. This was terrible. And that's what I do for the rest of the shit. It's like, oh yeah, this is great, but this was shit. This was great. It's like this, like again,
Yeah.
this piecemeal way that we enjoy things, and I don't enjoy stuff that way. That's not like those aren't films I'm going to be talking about 10 years from now, or films that I enjoy in a piecemeal fashion. Those films to me are not successful, even though they have successful things. And I think James Cameron uh, worked for a studio that understood art, that understood storytelling, that understood we need to make this engaging and amazing, and they did it. And the reason why it's not happening anymore is because we have studios that are in too much of a hurry. They need a release date, and they want you to finish your script and get shooting. And if that would stop and change, I think we would get another lightning in the bottle film, and I think or show. And I think that that's possible. I fully believe that that's possible. It's just going to take Disney actually listening and
I,
not trying to recreate Alien and Aliens again.
we definitely know it's possible because Andor, we have that as a watershed moment. So many films in the Star Wars universe, so many shows, and Andor was the last entry, right? Or one of them at least until the new Grogu movie comes out.
Mhm.
Um, but it can be done. The thing that makes Cameron so good, especially early on, is he absolutely is influenced by movies that came before. He's mentioned 2001 often, and obviously the original Alien, which he loved. You have to be influenced by that to make the sequel to it. But what he does so well is he takes the elements, he takes not so much the feeling, he takes what works and he rearranges it using inspiration from his own life. He steals from himself, which as an artist, you have to go into your own experience and put that in. So his mother, right? He's talked a lot about how his mother is a strong influence, was a strong woman, um, and he wrote that. He wrote aspects of her into Ripley and Sarah Connor previously. He took elements from his previous story, Mother, and he added that in. He steals from himself, knowing what's going to work where, and then rearranges it in this way that everything makes sense from point A to point Z. Nothing is misplaced, nothing is extraneous. if he puts it in, it's coming up later. It's going to have some sort of point later on. And I think he's a master at that because he knows what works. Now, maybe not so much. Maybe I think he's stealing a little bit too much from himself. But back then, he said he had extremely vivid dreams. He would draw everything he saw. He, he would write stories when he was a kid. And I think having those stories that you do think of when you're a kid, I think we all, as kids, even if we don't write them down, we have stories in our head. We all like fantasize, we all like pretend. And he wrote them down and he added those. And I think that's what makes everybody of every age have that awe and that wonder of, wow, where is this story taking me? All art is influenced by previous art. And I think he just rearranges it in a way that makes it fresh, even with the countdown, even with the airlock. He made it new.
Yeah. And I think going back to the characters that we all revere so much, something that I notice about Aliens and I notice about Blade Runner 2049, the characters, it seems like everyone who made this movie all just had this unspoken thing where like, all right, we're committing 1,000% to this. And every single person who stepped foot on that stage believed in the world and believed in the story and put everything they could to make it real for themselves and for everyone around them. There is not one actor in Aliens, even baby Newt, she's so small. She's there. She believes it. And she is so immersed in the world. That's what lends itself to us feeling like we're immersed in it. So having characters like these that become legendary, even from the first time that you see it, I guarantee that as children, when we like watch this, you're like, I will never forget that character. Even if it's like not one of the very main ones, they're all so committed. Gorman, just Burke, every single character is very grounded in the world. And that's what I think is so important for a movie that's going to have an alien queen laying giant eggs and all of this crazy shit happening, a guy with milk for blood. Those things need to be believed in and revered. And I think that's what makes or breaks a movie like that. That's why some sci-fi movies you forget about them or they're silly or they're hokey. Um, Everybody in Andor committed to that world and their roles in it and how they lived in it. Everybody in 2049 lives and breathes LA 2049. So you can feel that as an audience member and it's intoxicating and it's what brings me back to these movies again and again and again. And it's why it will never get old for me. As I'm sure it will never get old for you guys. Like it's just something about everyone silently deciding to commit themselves to this world that makes the magic real. It takes James Cameron's genius to create the story, yes, but like everybody who stepped foot and made that movie was like, you know what, man, 100% we're there. Let's make the drop ship. Let's make this pulse rifle. Let's make every tiny prop look perfect and absolutely grounded in reality for that world. So it's just magical when that happens. And it's so rare that you feel it immediately when you watch movies like that because it's not every movie that gives you that has that level of commitment. And I think it's what makes this movie legendary and continues to keep it legendary all these years, all these 40 years later. It's wild.
I think the acting is extremely underrated in Aliens. I don't think they get their
Agreed.
props. I think because
Agree.
they're Marines and they're shooting guns, I, the acting is stellar across the board. Even the people who don't have any dialogue,
Yeah.
they're in it. 100%. I agree with you. They make the movie. 100%.
Yeah.
I also think Aliens has that documentary feel that Alien has. 100%. Like it feels like there's a camera there with the real people on real, like in real environments. It does not feel like, oh, this is a movie. It never feels that way to me. Alien 3 doesn't feel that way. The rest all feel like, oh, hey, we're doing this thing in this movie. It's neat, isn't it?
Part of that, honestly, Jamie, is the use of handheld camera work. That's something that I think people get wrong about because we think about Alien and Aliens, we think about beautiful, especially Alien, we think about beautiful framing because Ridley has like such an incredible eye for that. And I think people assume that those are all like set up, like static shots, or they're on dollies or something. But like that's mostly handheld cameras, and that's why it feels so realistic. And Aliens is the same thing. Like Cameron puts us in those corridors with the Marines, like we're running next to them, like we're breathing next to them. And it's not that kind of gimmicky, all over the place kind of handheld work. It's like really artful, a lot of steady cam. And I think that sense of like kineticism is what makes it feel believable because it feels like it's not really like we're watching something. It feels like we're participating in it. We're gonna wrap, but we have obviously a lot more to talk about with this amazing film this year. Um, we'll have plenty of debates about how it's possible to say Gorman is more attractive than Hicks is, which I'm sorry is just categorically not true.
Yeah,
But we
no.
could say we could table
Wrong.
that. We could table
Incorrect.
that. No,
Who
but
said that?
there's so much to talk about. It's we did do to Perry's earlier point, we did a very long extended series on Aliens for its 35th anniversary. And that ended up going into like the 36th. And I think we had one in the 37th anniversary as well, because we kept coming back to it. And when with the 40th coming up, we had some little conversations about like, is there kind of enough new to talk about? And to Jamie's point from the beginning, of course there's more to talk about with Aliens. It's a movie that we'll be talking about for the rest of our lives. And we hope that you are there to talk about it with us. And if you would like to, please join us on YouTube, like our fine friends tonight who are currently architecting an RPG game. I'm watching this happen over in my chat, which is amazing. We love you guys. We love having you here, contributing. And I appreciate the mustache support. That it's not long for this world, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, he doesn't get
And
it anywhere else. So
if you want to join us on YouTube, go ahead and make sure you subscribe to us and get notified because we would love to have you. We are up to 7.11 thousand subscribers now. I just checked, Jamie, which is amazing. We
Yes.
added like 1,000 in the last month,
wow.
so that's freaking awesome. If
And I
you
think part of that is
our audio drama.
apotheosis. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you haven't heard that yet and
Hell
you're
yeah.
thinking about it,
Check it
hop on
out.
YouTube because we have amazing artwork by our staff artist slash contributor, Ross, who did a beautiful original painting of a pivotal moment in this thing. And you can see the visuals and you can see the full credits and everything if you go to YouTube. So check us out. And we love you guys and we'll be back with a lot more. And we hope to see you there.
And if you want to be a producer, you can go to perfectorganism.com/support. Sign up for $12 a month to be a producer or $4 a month just to be a regular patron. And we would really appreciate that. Thank you.
And to that producer thing, just really quick, and then Perry, I'll pass it off to you to close. Crazy couple things have happened recently. One of them is that Poop Vane, my buddy Eric,
Poop
who's,
Vane!
just
Vane!
incredible,
Vane.
who's in the chat right now, put up a picture of him with his dad or grandpa, I can't remember, at a Sharper Image in like 1992
Oh my God.
with a
Sharper
full-size
Image.
alien. And
Yes.
it blew my mind because I have a picture with that alien at a Sharper Image store. And
Wild.
we're the same age about. So like I had no memory of how I had this photo, but it's been on my wall for my whole life. And then I'm like, oh my God, like we were in it might've been the same Sharper Image store, who knows, with this giant alien model. And
Who was
now
his
that was
grandpa?
it was his grandpa, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool to see, like, that was in the producer chat. So
I love
stuff like
that.
that happens in the producer chat if you want to join us in there. Another thing that happens in the producer chat is Alien RPG nights.
Woo.
So if you like to be, our producer Sky is in the midst of doing one right now. We're all going to be playing it. If you want to be involved in all that stuff, join the producer tier. We're not saying it's like pay to play. Obviously, like we respect you
perk.
regardless of whether or not you give money to us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you do have the ability to give at that $12 level, there really is a lot waiting for you there. And you'll know that because if you go to Apotheosis on our YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to, and you look at the credits, you'll see every producer's name there because they, are technically producers of the show as well as the audio drama content. And with that, I'm going to hand it to Perry to close us out.
I was just gonna plug our t-shirt again. Alien Day
Yeah.
shirt, which was also created by Ross, Mr. Dead Dark, and with Andy's beautiful expertise with the Big Hicks Energy slogan on the back. Just check it out. It's amazing. If you haven't bought one yet, please do that as well. It obviously supports all these wonderful projects that we put on, as well as just supporting local artists. because there's so much AI BS out there now,
Mhm.
unfortunately. So you get your shirt and start listening to 40 Years of Bad Road, because we got
Yes.
more of it.
Lock
And
that
last
shit
but not
in.
least, we are releasing an Aliens 40th anniversary T-shirt
Oh yeah.
on the day of like the 40th anniversary date, which is in
Look
July.
out.
So
July.
look out
Yeah.
for that.
Look out for that and get you one of those.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yes.
Thank you.